Back in 1999, Sean McVay was just 13 years old. 18 years later, the youngest head coach in the league at 31. It's incredible. We're talking Los Angeles Rams, baby. And I didn't call him St. Louis. Fred and Albert is here. I'm Adrian Fedke. So $1 in the tip jar every time we say St. Louis today.
Oh, boy. Bring out the singles.
Well, you live in Vegas, so you're always having singles on you.
No comment. But, yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the Rams here, the Rams have had a really aggressive offseason. Obviously, they've gone with the youngest head coach in the NFL history. We'll see how that works out. And I think what's smart about what Coach did there was he brought in one of the oldest, if not the oldest, defensive coordinator in the NFL, brings in Wade Phillips. So I just got to wonder, like, how are those like pop culture conversations going in the locker room? Because it's probably like two different languages when the two of them are together.
I haven't thought about that till now, and now it's just making me think about what they talk about. Like imagine a round of golf, them playing together. What are they even saying?
I mean, it literally will only be ever about football, which might be like the best thing for the LA Rams or the worst possible things, because eventually they're going to get to the point where, like, so we have nothing to talk about, so I guess I'll just see you tomorrow at practice because there's nothing else for us really to talk about.
All right, let's get into Jared Goff. They gave up a boatload of picks to get him. Struggled during his rookie season. They say that he had a solid game last week against Oakland. Now, I was on a bachelor party last weekend. I haven't seen a lot of regular preseason games. I'm going to try to watch a bunch of them this week because I'm finally going to have some time. But he was 16 to 20 for 160 yards. They say he looked good. He led 3 scoring drives on 4 first-half possessions. But this also came after a rough week of practice where he threw 5 interceptions in a 2-day span. So Jared Goff, at the end of the day, is he going to be any good?
God, Adrian, I still don't know definitively. I mean, as of now, all I know is he looked good in very, very small sample in the season last year. Go back and watch the tape when he played the Hawks. He actually played pretty good in Seattle. He played pretty good against the Saints. He didn't do terrible against the Raiders. The Raiders game, it's a preseason game, so he's not necessarily going to see the full script of everything, but he looked okay. I don't know if he's going to be any good. I mean, he only can get better. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here with Jared Goff, though.
Yeah, I was never a Jared Goff guy. This was my big bust last year. I'm not a big Jared Goff guy at all. I just don't really like him. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it.
I mean, when I saw, like, when the Rams made that move, it just reeked of desperation of, hey, we're moving to LA. Let's make a big, sexy splash. Let's do something exciting. And I was just like, you know what? Just don't do this. Just don't make this big move. And then what really irks me is then the Rams did it again this year with the Sammy Watkins trade. Like
why are you giving away more picks? What are they doing?
Like, guys, no, just stop. Grow slowly. You don't need to do all this. Like, it seemed like forced aggression to get, these guys that were sexy. Now, you know what? Jared Goff might turn out to be a pretty good starting quarterback. And Watkins, I mean, maybe you think that the LA Rams trainer is touched by Jesus and he's able to fix Sammy Watkins to be healthy all the time. Okay, then great. I guess those things work. But those are 2 really big ifs you got going in there. So I'm not a big fan of what the Rams did. I think they forced on both of those moves. I don't love it, though.
Yeah, from the tape that I remember watching Goff, I thought he was terrible at reading, like, zone defenders. He always threw a lot of bad interceptions. And I think he also benefited from being in that up-tempo, quick type of, that Cal raid offense that he was in. So I think he was helped out by that as well. I mean, he makes quick decisions. He gets the ball out, but I was never. I think he's dumb as shit. And it was proven last year at Hard Knocks. I'm not a fan.
I'm a little worried. I mean, here's the thing. Whenever you go quarterbacks drafted 1-2, it's always going to be circle the guy who's number 2 and say, look how much better he was. How dumb are you? I'm
Yeah.
not ready to anoint Carson Wentz as this unbelievable surefire draft pick, LOL, laugh in the Rams' face. I'm not ready to do that. But it was a bad first year. I mean, it was a bad first year. Now, I'm gonna play the advocate role here. There was nothing on that offensive line. There was nothing on the offensive line. I think, Adrian, you told me off there they gave up the most sacks in the NFL last year. That's not awesome.
No.
Okay. Your best receiver was a guy who's 5'8" and he can run really fast and go straight. And then Kenny Britt had a resurgence last year, but I'm not so sure we're ready to call Kenny Britt a stud in the NFL either because they let him go. Your best offensive weapon is Todd Gurley. There's really nothing on that offense that really gave Goff the opportunity to improve. So they were very, very aggressive this year and adding more weapons to him. So he should see a step forward this year, but pressure's on for sure.
I thought his rookie season, in terms of what he had around him, was very similar to Carson Wentz. Wentz did not have any receivers whatsoever. Now, you can make the argument, yes, the Rams' offensive line was a lot worse than what the Eagles have. But in terms of the weapons, I mean, Eagles had nobody. It was worse than what the Rams had. And we saw during the offseason, the Eagles went out. They went out, got Carson Wentz some weapons, and now we're seeing with the Rams. They gave up the second most sacks in the league. You talked about that. At 49, they signed Andrew Whitworth, who has only given up 4 sacks in his last 3 years. So, yes, he's a little bit older, but I think that was a great signing for the Rams because Goff needs that blindside protector.
I would agree with you. I think the offenses were very similar there in Philly as they were in St. Louis. Damn it, put it in. Put $1 in. $1 in the tip jar. So, in LA, I think the weapons, they were very similar. Offensive line, certainly Philly was way better as an offensive line unit than LA was. But weapons, both average, I think is a fair way.
Below average.
Yeah, I mean, if you take Kenny Britt and you take Zach Ertz, both meh. And that's kind of, I think, a fair comparison because really were the best offensive players both of those guys had in their rookie years. So not a lot there. Now, when it comes to Andrew Whitworth, they replaced a guy in Greg Robinson who was a tremendous bust of a first-round pick coming out of Auburn. They ended up trading him to Detroit, getting a draft pick out of it. So kudos to you, LA, for being able to get something, even though it was a late-round pick. You got something in return, so good for you there. And then, yes, I hear it. And we talked together, Adrian, on our Bengals show. A lot of Bengals fans said, Whitworth is old. I hear you. Obviously, Father Time is undefeated. I understand all of that. But Whitworth was still a Pro Bowler last year. Okay, so for the Rams, it is nothing but a massive, most important position on the offensive line. So big improvement there for the Rams.
Yeah, I love that signing for them. And tackles tend to age kind of gracefully too. So let's remember that. It's not like other positions where, say, running back, you're done by 30. But tackles, I've seen guys 35, 36, 37 years old still perform at a pretty high level. So it does happen. All right, let's talk about Todd Gurley now. 3.2 yards per carry last year, just 3.2. We know how bad the offensive line is. And also, it was pretty predictable with the play calling. Jeff Fisher already likes to run the ball a lot as it is. And you had Jared Goff as your quarterback. So, that's kind of a recipe for disaster for Gurley.
Massive. I mean, he is facing 8 and sometimes even 9-man boxes. They were literally saying, we're going to make Kenny Britt beat us over the top consistently. We're going to make Brian Quick beat us over the top consistently. We're going to make Tavon Austin beat us over the top consistently. And the Rams weren't able to do it. Now it's a combination of the receivers and certainly, of course, of Goff's struggle first year. So Gurley, unfortunately, he's a victim, of the bad offense there. So he had a bad year, certainly. That said, he's going to get force-fed the rock this season. He was force-fed the rock last year. He'll get force-fed the rock again this year. Carries aren't going to drop. He's certainly one of the best athletes in the running back position in the NFL. He's just got to be able to face a little more favorable box.
Yeah, they're going to go to a zone blocking scheme now with Sean McVay, so that's what he likes to run. So he is going to have to it is a change for him, but I think it's something that he can do pretty seamlessly. So I think Gurley will bounce back. And, it's funny because I talk all that shit about Goff, and, the offensive line is an excuse. It is a valid excuse because we saw it for Todd Gurley. Look at just the drop-off. 3.2 yards per carry. Todd Gurley, to me, is a top 5 running back in the league. And he only averaged 3.2 yards per carry.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, look, offensive struggles, you can point fingers everywhere because you know what? Everyone was to blame. There was nothing going on in L.A. that was able to say, oh, well, we were successful because of you. No, you were unsuccessful because your entire offense was dog junk. Everywhere was bad there for L.A.
Yeah, awful. All right, so let's talk receivers now. Who's Jared Goff throwing the ball to?
Well, when you watch the Raiders game, he looked to be in really good sync with Cooper Kupp there.
Yeah,
who played pretty well. So the one thing I will give Les Snead and that front office there in LA, they did a great job at finding value and finding weapons around. Now, I don't love the Sammy Watkins trade because realistically you traded a second-round pick, which realistically that second-round pick is probably going to be in the top 40. Yes. So that's a very valuable number 2. So I don't love that. Obviously, the upside from Sammy Watkins certainly is there, but he's never been healthy. So there's my concern. The other thing we got to remember, too, is he's a contract year guy. So I'm really curious to see how those negotiations are going to go. Now, you assume that LA has openly decided we are going to re-sign Watkins. Otherwise, you wouldn't have traded a second-round pick for him. So that's something I'm a little worried about there. Tavon Austin is one of those guys. He's electric when he has the ball in his hands in space, but he hasn't really had the opportunity to play in space because there's not a lot of things around him that separates him. Robert Woods is another guy similar to the guy we talked about last show, and Pierre Garçon. Chain mover, receptions, nothing really explosive. So if Sammy Watkins can be healthy, it could be a very good receiving core. I mean, realistically, they changed their entire receiving core around. So that's something I'm a little curious to go out and see. And they went out and they drafted a young tight end too, and a guy that they thought was going to be similar to a Jordan Reed move tight end. Let's see how that works. So Goff's got a lot of weapons around him. Let's see how they develop and mesh.
Yeah, they basically took Buffalo starters and then brought them over to LA. So Woods and Watkins are going to be your starters at wideout, and I do like Cooper Kupp a little bit from Eastern Washington. Now I just saw some of the highlight clips from that. So again, I haven't had time to break down a lot of these preseason games. So I watched a lot of the Week 1 games. Week 2 I didn't really get to see due to the bachelor party, and I'm going to catch up on Week 3 this week. So we'll see. But so Cooper Kupp and Tavon Austin now is almost like a number 4 for them. So they invested a lot of money in him. They overspent for him, but whatever.
Yeah, I felt like with that Tavon Austin signing, I felt like they just re-signed him because he was there. I mean, I think that's
really kind of what it felt like. Yeah. All right, offensive line. Let's talk about it. So how much did they really improve? How much does Andrew Whitworth really help stabilize things?
It's a big jump, but it's a big jump from being the second worst to the NFL to maybe average.
Yeah.
So it's still not a very good offensive line. Whitworth is a big jump there in left tackle, so that's a great thing. Roger Stafford, he's second-round draft pick a couple years ago out of Indiana. He's a better left guard in the NFL, solid starting left guard in the NFL. The problem they have there is at the right side of the line, Mr. Brown, Jerome Brown. He's a bit of a liability there, but they used to have a liability on left and right sides. Now they're solidifying it, so they're moving in the right direction. Still not a good offensive line by any means, though.
Yeah, and they've got John Sullivan there, the veteran starter at center, so they got a veteran presence there. Yeah, I like the left side of that offensive line. They're going to be running a lot to the left side. That's basically what's going to happen behind Whitworth, Saffold, and Sullivan. So that's what they're going to be doing. All right, moving on to the defensive line now. So they're moving to a 3-4, I believe. Aaron Donald, where's he going to play? Now, they originally had him listed as a nose tackle. Where's he going to play?
He's going to go over to end. He'll go and play one of the end spots. Yeah, I mean, Wade Phillips has always been a 3-4 guy. It's one of those things, when you hire Wade Phillips, you are openly saying we're going to play a 3-4. So Aaron Donald, I have no concerns with him because he's Aaron Donald. I mean, he's able to play up and down the line.
It doesn't matter where you play.
No. I'd rather him as a 4-3 D end, but I think he'll still be successful as a 3-4 D end.
Yeah.
Now, the guy that I circle and I have concerns about is Michael Brockers. He's coming from a 4-3 where he's playing in a 2 or 3 tech, and now playing that 0, playing the head up on the center.
Yeah.
That's not really his skill set. His skill set had been more of a speed guy inside, not as the power brute guy in a 3-4. So I'm a little bit concerned there.
Did you hear anything about Donald potentially being a nose tackle? Because that's what our lads had, like the our lads depth chart. That's what they had him at, and I was really, really surprised. And now I actually don't see him anywhere, so I don't know if he's actually hurt. Is he hurt right now?
Well, he's currently holding out. He's in the midst of
okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, he's in the midst of the holdout right now. Now, personally, for me, you could move Donald. I mean, he's a bowling ball and a mountain of a man, and you could absolutely put him playing the nose and have him play the 0 and have Brocker play the end. But then you don't really get that. Nose is constantly getting doubled and triple teamed between the center and guard combination. I don't want my best player, getting absorbed by blockers. I want to get him in favorable mismatches, not make him fight 3-on-1 every single snap.
I agree. And I don't even know if I necessarily again, Brockers at, that nose tackle spot. Now, a guy that beat out Michael Sam a couple years ago, he's actually turned himself into a pretty solid player, Ethan Westbrooks. So he's going to be one of their starters as well. Tanzel Smart, they've got listed as a starter here. Remember we talked about him?
Tanzel Smart was one of my underrated guys we talked about coming out of Tulane, right?
Yeah.
He was a guy that
was the starter at the end.
We talked about him, and I was a big, big fan of him. I think he was like a 3-time first-team All-American in the American Conference out of Tulane, and he was wrecking people. He was the only thing on that defensive unit for Tulane, and he was still making plays. So I love to see him be successful. I think that's really cool. The other things we see with the 3-4 then, this also means now that Robert Quinn, he's going to stand up.
Yeah.
He's going to be the edge guy off the edge. So I'm a little curious to see how he's going to do. I don't have that much concerns for him because he is a dynamic athlete. I think he can be very, very successful. But the bigger concern I have is the opposite outside linebacker. Insert your boy, Connor Barwin.
Connor Barwin. Yeah, Connor Barwin, as recently as 2014, had 14.5 sacks, but obviously a little older now and, not as productive. He spent the last couple seasons in Philly as a 4-3 defensive end, 3-4 outside linebacker. Definitely better suits his skill set. Now, Robert Quinn, let me get back to him for a second. What did he have 2 years ago? It was like, what was it, like 19 sacks?
Something like that, yeah.
And then the last 2 years, he's kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. So who's the real Robert Quinn?
I think Robert Quinn realistically is a guy around 10 to 11 sacks. I think that, and that's a good NFL starter.
Oh yeah,
But I think when you're able to play in a 4-3 lineup and you play next to Donald and on the other side is Brockers, you pretty much know you're going to get singled up every single time. In the 3-4. Maybe he gets still some single matchups, but he might not get as many. I hope that they move him opposite of where they have Donald. I hope Donald plays one end. They move him to the opposite outside linebacker just to kind of keep a little balance there on the edges. But certainly he could be successful, really no matter where he is. I still think he's a better fit in a 4-3 down, but I don't think he'll have as much struggle as some people might think he will.
Yeah. All right, those inside linebackers. So we know Mark Barron, the converted safety to linebacker, then Alec Ogletree, the speed and athleticism Ogletree. Now, he does get over-aggressive at times, but, dude, I love me some Ogletree. What do you think about him?
I'm a big fan of it. I mean, both of their inside backers is just a more developed version of really what Arizona's doing. and having a converted strong safety playing one of the inside backers and a hybrid guy who was an outside edge guy in college coming to play inside is similar to what our guy Hassan Reddick's going to do there in Arizona. So my concern is the same, though. My concern was the exact same we talked about the Cardinals as it is here with the Rams. How are they going to hold up on its oncoming guards? I mean, Barron is an undersized linebacker, and now he has essentially a free release at a guard coming at him. I'm a little worried about how they're going to do stopping the run. I think they'll be successful getting after the passer, but I'm a little worried how they're going to adjust to stopping the run, especially inside.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the secondary. I like me some Trumaine Johnson. So this is the second straight year that he was franchise tagged. So he's going to have to convert over to that press man type of style that Wade Phillips likes to play. Trumaine Johnson, what do you think of him? You like him?
Good player. Yeah, I think he's a very good player. He's probably in that I don't know, top 15 range, top 16 range. He's a good enough to.
Keep talking.
I think he's good enough to be a starting corner. I don't think he's necessarily a top 10 guy. I think he's just outside of that mix, but he's a good starting corner. The other guy I actually like. I like Joyner as their safety there, undersized safety, but he's a very good single high, middle third player at safety. They obviously traded EJ Gaines away to move on and get Watkins, so a little bit of a open door situation there at the right corner spot. Nickel Roby is probably going to be a guy who's going to have the shot to take that spot, so we'll see how things go there in LA.
Yeah, I got Trumaine Johnson 18th, so like right about where you got him, where your guesstimate is. So Trumaine Johnson, I got him right there with I got DRC in that mix. I've got Joe Hayden around there, Kareem Jackson. So like right around that sort of mix. Now the other corner spot, you talked about Nickel Roby. Also Kayvon Webster will be in the mix. So the defense is actually pretty good. We know the defense is pretty solid, but will the offense be able to score points, and that'll be the key to the season. So you talked about LaMarcus Joyner. He is a former corner for them, but he's moving to safety. So you talked about that. They're gonna have to replace T.J. McDonald. I thought T.J. McDonald was a very, very good player for them.
I agree. T.J. McDonald was a nice signing there for Miami to go on and get him. I was a T.J. McDonald fan. I think he was right there in the mix, probably middle half of starting safeties in the NFL. Wasn't necessarily the ball hawk that you really had hoped for, but was a very solid player. So curious to see how that transition is going to be there for the Rams.
Yeah. All right. Hot seat time. Who's on it? Is it Jared Goff already?
It can't be. And the only reason I say that is just because they've invested too much for him to – I think he really needs 2 seasons in before we really can start to see. And then after 3 years, now you can really put him on the hot seat. I would – I'm going to say Sammy Watkins. They've invested a lot in trading up to get him. He's on a contract year. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. I think Sammy Watkins is my hot seat guy. They're asking a lot of him when they bring him in here.
That's a good one. I like that one because I'm looking and I'm not really finding much. I mean, is Andrew Whitworth really count? I mean, it's more that he's so imperative, I think, for that team. So that's not really hot seat per se. That's just, by God, he's really, really important for them. I don't know. Who's on the hot seat, damn it? I'll just say fucking Goff. I don't care. If he's like historically bad, like Jamarcus Russell bad, what do you do after this year?
You got to punt on him.
Huh?
You got to punt on him and move on.
Yeah. So God, I guess you can.
But if he's that bad, then your first round pick is going to be in the range then of potentially getting a quarterback.
Yeah. God damn, they're in a bad spot.
Rough spot, and typically what we see happen too is when general managers are in the hot seat, sometimes they'll go out and they'll draft a quarterback with the mindset of, oh, well, now my boss won't fire me because he'll understand I have a rookie quarterback, so I bought myself a little window. Could see Les Snead doing that. If, again, we're throwing a lot of hypotheticals. I don't think Jared Goff's going to struggle that bad again. I think he's going to improve. But if he does,
I agree with that because of what's around him now. He's actually
everything else is improved. Yes.
I'm still not a big Goff guy, but he's going to improve.
I actually have the Rams this year, Adrian, going 6-10. I have them making a big jump. I have them winning 3 games in the division. And then out of division, here's the games I like them. First off, they get week 1 against the Colts. And it looks like Luck's not going to play. And if he's not going to play, I think that's a winnable game for the Rams because that defense is better than people think, and it's in LA. So I think that's a better defense. People think I got them there. I could see them getting the Texans. I don't think the Texans have really solved everything on offense yet either. I think it's a very, very similar kind of situation. Both offenses are trying to figure things out. Defenses are very, very good. So I think that's a winnable game. And here's one I know people are going to hate me for. I think the Rams are going to beat the Eagles, but here's why. Listen to the streak the Eagles have. The Eagles go at Seattle, at Los Angeles, at the Giants. I think it's realistic that the Eagles have a slip-up in there. And realistically, if the Eagles were to pick one of those 3 games to lose, the one they'd want to lose would be the Rams. Because you don't want to lose to the Giants, obviously. And you don't want to lose to the Seahawks. That could be another team that could potentially have some playoff indications in there. So I think the Rams is a team that they could lose to, especially in those West away games back-to-back. That's a tough stretch there for the Eagles.
Well, you know who the Rams are going to beat? They're going to beat the Seahawks. They always beat the Seahawks. It doesn't matter like who's playing at quarterback or what. They just always beat them. It's unbelievable. And they always beat them like 10-9. It's always a defensive slugfest. So we know that they're going to get at least 1 win because they're going to beat Seattle. I've got 5-11. So you've got 6-10. I've got 5-11. So there it is. Underrated player. Who's underrated on the Rams?
Robert Woods. I like Robert Woods too. I think he's another one of those guys, just a chain mover. He's one of those people that, similar to Pierre Garçon, you don't realize it, and all of a sudden you look up and he's got 5 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown. I mean, those are the stats that are completely norms for him. So I like Robert Woods as an underrated guy.
Is Tremaine Johnson underrated? I guess he is. I don't think too many people would say he's actually most people probably don't even know who he is.
Yeah, I think that's a fair one, Adrian.
So I'll go Tremaine Johnson. That'll be mine. And I like Roger Saffold too, the left guard that they have. Yeah, so I'll go with that. What else we got? Fantasy player.
Gurley, I think, is going to be a fantasy guy for me. And it's just going to be because he's going to keep getting touches. He's just going to keep getting touches and keep getting touches and keep getting touches. So he's not necessarily going to, while he is a top 5 athlete in the running back position in the NFL, he's not probably going to put top 5 numbers up for a fantasy guy, but he'll probably out-touch a lot of other people. So I'm going to go Todd Gurley. And the one nice thing is hopefully everyone's fantasy leagues, the guys are all thinking, oh, Todd Gurley, what a terrible offense. I'm not going to draft him. And all of a sudden he becomes your running back too. It's a damn good running back two situation. I don't think in a 10-team league he'd be a running back 1. He's probably going to get 12th or 11th running back off the board.
That's what I'm hoping happens for me. Actually, I shouldn't be giving away my fantasy football strategy, but I want Todd Gurley, like 2nd round.
Yeah, I think that's realistic. I think what we're seeing is I think a lot of people, especially in PPR leagues, you're going to see guys like Christian McCaffrey get drafted as a running back 1. Joe Mixon might even get drafted as a running back 1. Leonard Fournette might get drafted as a running back 1. And all of a sudden, now we see Todd Gurley start to slide. And Todd Gurley might get drafted as your running back 2, yes, but I guarantee you he's going to get more touches than a lot of those guys. So I like Todd Gurley.
Yeah, and this offense, it's going to be different. It's Jeff Fisher's not there no more. So
I mean, look, you can't say the Rams' offense hasn't improved. That's just simple fact. It has.
I like Sean McVay. Even though he's only 31, I like that combination of McVay and Goff. Now, I don't like Goff, but I like McVay, so it might be okay.
Yeah.
Aha, I just rhymed. All right. That's time to end the show now. So that's Brennan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedke. We are going to try and figure out how we're going to get all 32 of these teams done, but we'll figure it out. So tomorrow we got the Panthers and the Falcons. So tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun.
Got the two NFC last 2 years Super Bowl contenders, so that should be exciting.
There it is. And Kyle Shanahan, we talked about him today. Well, they got a new offensive coordinator there in Atlanta. So we'll talk all about that tomorrow. This was the Rams preview. Again, that's Brendan. I'm Adrian. We're out. Peace.
Take care, guys.